off the Florida Keys. There's a place called Kokomo. That's where you wanna go to get away from it all. Bodies in the sand, tropical drink melting in your head. We'll be falling in love to the rhythm of a steel drum band. Down in Kokomo, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you from here to Bahama. Come on, pretty mama, Key Largo, Montego. Hey, we wanna take you down to Kokomo. We'll get there fast and then we'll take it slow. That's where we wanna go, way down to Kokomo. We'll put out to sea and we'll perfect our chemistry. By and by we'll defy a little bit of gravity. Afternoon delight, cocktails and moonlit nights. That dreamy look in your eye gives me a tropical contact high. Down in Kokomo, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you from here to Bahama. Come on, pretty mama, Key Largo, Montego. Hey, we wanna take you down to Kokomo. We'll get there fast and then we'll take it slow. That's where we wanna go, way down to Kokomo. Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you from here to Bahama. Come on, pretty mama, Key Largo, Montego. Baby, wanna take you down to Kokomo. We'll get there fast and then we'll take it slow. That's where we wanna go, way down to Kokomo. Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you from here to Bahama. Come on, pretty mama, Key Largo, Montego. Baby, why don't we go?
entertain you tonight with a gala discussion and a recording session. Matt and Greg and the fabulous Beach Boys talk.
Beach Boys, we're talking Beach Boys, Beach Boys, we're talking Beach Boys, Beach Boys, we're talking Beach Boys.
What's going on, brother Matt?
What's up? I was just sailing an ocean. That's what I was doing.
You
An
were
unsettled.
Were you?
An unsettled ocean.
Were you persevering?
I was.
Always clearing, never hearing.
Oh man.
Yes, you're
that
endearing.
One goes on and on. I'm endearing.
I don't know the words. Welcome everybody to another episode of my favorite, one of my favorite places to be on Tuesday nights, and that's right here on Beach Boys Talk. This is a live stream show dedicated to our favorite band in the entire world, the Beach Boys. Right, brother Matt?
That is right. The Beach Boys, America's band, 60 years and still kicking.
That's
and
right. Still kicking.
You know, thank you for being with us tonight. If you're new, you know, Greg and
Welcome.
I are not experts, not historians, not musicologists. We're just two brothers
Welcome.
who love the band, and we love talking about all things Beach Boys.
Yeah.
So welcome if you're here tonight. Tonight we got a really cool show. We're gonna announce the winner of the Many Moods contest, which is pretty interesting. A lot of hot takes in there. But we're gonna really the focus of tonight is discuss this album, the 1973 Beach Boys album, Holland.
Yeah.
And we're gonna welcome on a very special guest, Mark Schuster, who wrote an awesome book called Leaving California.
Do you have it? I'm gonna grab it, Matt.
I don't have mine with me here. Yeah. Grab it. Yeah. Leaving California. Holland, the Beach Boys, Holland Revisited. It's a really cool book about the Holland album. And, you know, I was telling my brother today, something interesting was that as I got back into my Beach Boys rabbit hole, so to speak, you know what I mean? Holland did not come to my mind until way later. I didn't know a lot about it. And so it's still kind of an interesting thing for me to understand why this album is just getting its due now after 40 years or whatever, 50 years. So, but anyway, it's going to be fun tonight.
Yep. Folks, if you like the show, want to support the show, we appreciate if you share the stream, like the stream, love the stream, share it on your Facebook post, all that kind of stuff. Always sharing it, liking it always helps us. That would be great. If you really, really love the show, send us all your money. It's just that simple. That'd be great. No, just kidding. We would do this for free. In fact, we would pay money to do this, which we currently do. So it's a lot of fun.
We do have a merch store with some cool stuff.
That's right. BeachBoysTalk.com. You want to buy yourself a shirt, or if you just want to give us your many moods, you could win a shirt tonight, right?
If you're new tonight, again, welcome. And if you haven't heard our Kokomo, look that up too. Greg and I are pretty proud of that. We did in honor of the Beach Boys, we did a cover of Kokomo. So
we did, yeah. And then if you're new, why don't you introduce yourself in our chat right over here? We have a live chat going on. So all the Beach Boy fans, all the wonderful people like Stacy, Macrina, and Christian, and Denise.
They're all here tonight.
Yeah, all of our favorite people in the entire world are in the chat right now. So you should get to know these folks. To me, they're the best Beach Boy fans that exist because I think we're the nice one, the chill ones. You know what I mean? I think we get along with just about everybody. We just enjoy the music. So all your friends are right over here waiting for you to chat. Why don't you tell us your favorite Beach Boys song? That would be kind of cool. Tell us if you're new in the chat. But Matt,
I gotta say too, I'm sorry, Greg, but I just want to say to the groups out there, Stacy and everybody, I've really been enjoying the pictures. There's been some coming up lately that I've never seen before. It's been really cool, you know. So I appreciate all y'all do out there for that.
They really do. Some of the Beach Boy groups and the administrators do such a great job of keeping conversations going and providing us really great content. Matt, one of our favorite people in the entire world, Annie Wilson. Carr, just hope you're doing well, Annie. We miss you terribly. There's a great picture going around of her and Carl. Did you see that from 65?
I did, yeah.
Oh, what a cool picture. Yeah,
there was another one. I just saw her holding the baby and Carl standing behind her. I had never seen that one before either. So.
Oh, cool. I have to see that one too.
Yeah, they're pretty neat. So
yeah, we miss Annie a lot, and we think about her all the time. And speaking of Annie, her brother Billy had a show called Live from Billy's Place. Why don't we do a little bit, just a mini tribute here to Billy, like we always do. Sing along, folks. Billy had a show every Saturday night called Live from Billy's Place. Billy was, of course, a member of the Beach Boys and really, really sweet guy. And we always do just a little bit of a tribute to him so we don't ever forget, what a big influence he was on us and of course, the Beach Boy community, and what a kind person. So let's. Hello, my friends.
Welcome, Steve.
It's good to see you again. I know it's been a few years since I've been away. Now I'm happy to say I'm doing okay myself. I can dig what's happening, and every day there is something new, and good things are coming my way. Tell me how you been. There's so much you gotta tell me. Talk about them good old days. We laugh and say, hey, ain't life okay? Let's take it nice and easy now. It's a brand new year. Lots of things are happening, and good things are coming my way. Yeah, good things are coming my way, my way.
Rest in peace, Billy. Here we go.
I sailed an ocean, unsettled ocean, through restful water and deep commotion, often frightened, unenlightened. Sail on, sail on, sail on.
Awesome.
Yeah, Matt, I was going to say something. I'm really excited. Tomorrow night, before we get into it, tomorrow night I am going to my first ever Beach Boys concert, The Beach Boys, with Mike Love and Bruce. It's my first ever Mike and Bruce show, and I'm really excited. I've never seen their show before. Obviously, we've had a lot of his band members in the group on the show, which we've been really fortunate, lucky to talk to. They've all been great. I've heard great things about the energy, and of course, it's always great to see original members. I mean, Mike Love, you can't beat that voice. Matt, back when we went and saw them on the 50th anniversary tour, you and I had seen Brian together quite a bit, right?
Yeah, we had. Yep.
We had seen Brian's band and Brian doing the hits, which is great, which is awesome. But when Mike Love steps up to the plate in Cincinnati for the 50th anniversary, when they're all together and he just starts singing "Do It Again," I'm sorry, there's nothing better than that. So I'm really excited to kind of get that feeling back a little bit tomorrow night in Cleveland, Ohio. It's going to be a lot of fun. And by the way, if anybody out there, and I put it out there on the Facebook group, we're going to go across the street and grab a drink before the show. If anybody's in the Cleveland area, if anybody's going to the Cleveland show, hit me up. Let me know. Send us a message on Facebook. We're going to meet a little bit before the show, grab a drink and hang out. I know there's a few folks that we've got something planned, so we're really excited. But
hey, let me ask you this. First of all, I've seen in the chat a bit, and you and I talked about a little bit, Greg, but Mike Love did throw the first pitch at the Guardians game tonight, which is kind of cool. He's in town already. Go Guards! Woohoo! That's my team. Don said he threw it way left on the ground, but we'll have to see the video evidence. We'll see that, but he's 81 years old. I think it's an honor that he got to do that. It's pretty cool. Yeah. But my question for you is,
I don't know that I could do much better.
I'd be too scared. I'd probably.
That's a long way. If he's standing on the hump, I don't know.
Yeah. But my question to you is, what are you what are you expecting for tomorrow? Knowing that Mike and Bruce are in their 80s, they got a lot of backup, phenomenal musicians. What's kind of your expectations going in, if you don't mind me asking? I don't want to put you on the spot, but
That's a good question, Matt, because I don't think I know the answer. I don't know, man. I've seen Brian so many times, and I saw Mike once at the 50th.
Yeah.
But that's been it. So I don't really know what to expect. Here's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm expecting a lot of the hits. And it's funny, Matt, now that I think about it, I think I'm expecting to have just a good time. Does that make sense? I'm not thinking about the music too much. I'm not thinking about this is a deep cut, or I'm just enjoying. It's like that feeling when you put on like the sounds of summer. Like I just don't want to think. I just want to hear cool Beach Boy songs, the fun stuff with some energy. So that's kind of what I'm expecting, I think.
Yeah, and and I'll tell you, I saw Mike and Bruce in Nashville one time, and it was like that. And somebody on our show said this one time, and I apologize for not remembering who to that person, but they were kind of saying if you go see Brian Wilson's concert, it's like the art, it's like a piece of art, like a symphony almost, you kind of take it in. But when you go to the Mike Love show, it's like you're at a party, like at a rock concert.
That's kind of, you know what? I'm kind of hoping that they give out Coca Mojitos, like, I'm getting more of like a party vibe for sure.
Yeah, and exactly. Yeah.
Because all due respect to Brian, but it's so hard to get energy from Brian on stage. It's just never going to happen. And that's what was so great about Mike. Is that Mike brought that energy where the other guys maybe couldn't necessarily do it, or I'll leave everybody else at it. But
60
Brian,
years.
Yeah, for a long time. So, and he's got that. So maybe I'm excited to see that side of the Beach Boys that I haven't really gotten. So
well, I think part of the party atmosphere too is what you just said a minute ago was they're going to play the hits. They play some deeper cuts, but Brian Wilson plays Wake the World and Salt Lake City and Busy Doing Nothing. You're not going to get that.
And don't get me wrong, I think Mike's band is absolutely capable of doing any song they want out of the catalog.
Yeah. Oh no, they are
pulling it
sure.
out. No, I know you're not saying that. I just want to make sure it's said. It's just I think. I almost hope that they just play hits because that's kind of what I'm bringing Alex. It's going to be fun. Like. I just, I want to hear Mike Love sing fun. It's like, it's gonna be cool.
I know what you mean. The car, well, I don't want to give it away, but they do a cool, the thing is when you hear Mike Love sing the songs that he sang on the record, it's neat. Brian sings a lot of those at his show, but he didn't sing them on the record. So it's just a different feel, So I think you'll be, you're, of course, the biggest Beach Boy fan I know. I think you're going to love it. I think you'll be really excited about it. And you just have a good time.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to hear back from it.
Maybe Matt, can we chat with just before we welcome? We do need to do our many moods, and maybe we can do it with Mark on. Is that okay?
Let's bring him on. Yeah.
Well, he's not here yet. He's got a couple minutes.
Oh.
I need to go grab a drink real quick. Matt, do you mind hanging out with the chat for a second?
How about I go ahead and start that? I can read some of them.
Oh, that's a good idea. Okay. All right, everybody, we're about to do my favorite segment. Always one of my favorite things to do, and that is we got a very special one this week. It's called The Many Moods of Matt. Let's kick it. The many moods of people on Facebook and chat.
So I want to, we had a contest. The winner is going to receive if it means anything to you, a Many Moods of Matt t-shirt and the new Beach Boys coloring book that's coming out, coming out. But before I announce the winner, I did want to announce a few honorable mentions because I got to tell you, there were over 150, maybe even more than that, comments with different moods, with different hot takes, so to speak, about the Beach Boys. And so it was hard for me to pick, but there were a couple of common themes I saw through them. But there was one that stuck out to me as just like an interesting thought experiment, not necessarily we can have an answer for it. And it's not even an agree or disagree kind of thing. It's just kind of a question. That's why I liked it more. It's kind of just something to talk about. But I want to give a few shout outs here. The first one is to Justin Patton or Patton. Forgive me if I'm saying your name wrong. But one of his takes was this. I think Brian Wilson's so-called genius era only lasted from 1964 until around 1966 or 67. I believe the word genius is used far too often and loosely these days. I go along with his own self-assessment, which definitely applies to the 61 to 67 era. I'm not a genius. I'm a hardworking guy. So I really like that one. We're kind of going to get into that a little bit. The one that I chose is a little bit similar to that. But thank you, Justin, for that one. Another one I really liked, and this one was close to winning. And when Greg comes back, hopefully we'll talk. I do want to talk about this one, but this one's very powerful to me. It's from Alec Cummings. So thank you, Alec, for writing this. And it says, Mike Love overall gets far too much blame in the overall poor, persecuted genius Brian storyline and not enough credit. And most of us armchair Beach Boy experts, including me, have no right to claim the truth of just who the heroes and just who the villains were. Every one of the original six acted atrociously at times, so the blame assigning of Beach Boy fans should not stop. Not that it will. I thought that one was really, really interesting. And like I said, when Greg comes back, I'd like to discuss that one a little bit because, you know, let's be honest, Mike Love does get a lot of hate out there, right? Not from everybody, and we try not to give him hate on the show, but the truth of the matter is he does. He's human. But the one thing I like about Alex's post is that all the Beach Boys were human. They all had their faults. They all did things they shouldn't have. But it seems like the emphasis is on Mike for some reason. But we will talk about that one. But that was my number 2. So now, Greg, we're going to go through the winner.
Okay. Let me give you some.
Okay. The winner of the Many Moods of Matt contest is Ed Nutter. K-N-U-T-T-E-R. I don't know if you're here tonight, Ed, but
Many moods of
Ed
Nutter. Butter.
Congratulations, Ed. I will post this after the show too, just in case you're not online, on the site, so that you can get in contact with us for your prize.
What's the move?
Here's what he said.
Okay.
First of all, Greg, I just read the one about Mike Love. I think we need to talk about that at some point. But anyway. Okay. This is Ed's. Without psychedelic drugs, Brian Wilson doesn't finish Beach Boys Today, Pet Sounds, Smile Tracks, etc., and is not considered a musical genius. Not necessarily my belief, but would likely get me kicked out of a Beach Boys convention. Just don't kick me out of Beach Boys Talk. Well, Ed, we're not only not going to kick you out of Beach Boys Talk, we are giving you a prize for having the hottest take that I found.
Yeah. So
essentially what he said there, Greg, is, as you heard, is just without the drugs, we wouldn't have had the music Brian Wilson gave us. And I think that's interesting.
Can I say something about that?
Yeah.
I don't disagree, but I think I look at it a different way. I look at it that I think the drugs, whatever they were, I think were a way of Brian coping with the mental illness, the mental side of things, kind of bringing him back to normal so that he can be his normal genius self. So I don't agree that the drugs made him a genius. I agree that the drugs made him feel better so that he could do his genius things. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I kind of disagree with the take. I mean, I think we would never know, right? But the thing is, before Brian Wilson took psychedelic drugs, he wrote a lot of great music. He wrote "Don't Worry, Baby." He wrote "In My Room." You know what I mean?
You could go as far back as "Surfer Girl in My Room," and okay, clearly the guy has a gift. So
yeah. So to me, I kind of think about if he wrote those songs without, inspiration, what would have happened as he matured? There's no doubt that the drugs did help him. He's said as much. But the one thing that I tend to disagree with is the way that Ed is talking about it is that it might have been a good thing. But I wonder what would have happened. Would we have had, for instance, Holland as it is? Would we have had those 70s albums, or would have Brian have been more, productive if he hadn't taken those psychedelic drugs, and maybe he does finish Smile, or maybe Smile looks totally different. Like I said, one of the reasons I picked this one is because I love these kind of things where there's not really a right answer. It's all speculation. We'll never know,
Yeah.
But Brian will tell people, I regret doing the drugs, don't do them. But he also says they really made me creative, So it's one of those things. What do you say?
Yeah.
I think he was a genius before the drugs, though. That
no,
I would say
think
that
he was too. And like I think my thing is, I think it's just like anything anybody does. I think if you don't feel well mentally, physically, spiritually, and you're trying to accomplish a task, it's very difficult. But if someone were to hand you a drug or a special pill or whatever to say, hey, this will make you feel better so you can get your task accomplished, I think that starts to make more sense. But Matt, why don't we welcome on our esteemed author guest, Mark Schuster, to
Let's
maybe
do it.
weigh in a little bit. Let's see.
All right.
Mark, are you there? Let's see if Mark will join us. Ladies and gentlemen, one of our favorite people on the planet, and yours, we know it, everyone. That's Mark Schuster, Beach Boy author, fan, and very good friend of the show. Mark, how are you?
Hello. Am I on? No, I'm not on mute. I had the little mute thing up, but it's not there. Oh, good. Before we go any further, before we go any further, I have to say hi to Claire.
Oh,
because
Beach Boy Talk, Claire.
Your Beach Boys Talk, Claire, because here's my hot take.
Okay.
Claire has been a fan of Beach Boys Talk longer than you guys.
I
Follow me?
what? No, no. What does that mean? That sounds like some wizardry.
I think she loved the show. You guys started it.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, we're gonna do the show and it's gonna be cool. It'll be fun. I think Claire was like the second she tuned in. Like you guys were probably like at 90. She
Oh,
was like,
I see what you're.
I got you.
I agree. I agree with that too, which is very kind to say. And because I think, yeah, Matt and I, we're both humans, right? We're insecure about just about everything we do. You know, it's like, especially when you put yourself out there, right? So you're right. It's like probably the first couple seasons, maybe even up to now, we're still unsure about what we're doing. So I'm glad to hear that. Glad to hear that. Well, we love Claire, and everyone in the chat has been so supportive. And Mark, you've been so supportive of the show. We really appreciate that, man. It's been awesome. What an honor to know you and have you on. And we're excited to talk to you tonight to revisit this album, man. It's been cool. But what have you been up to, man? Tell us since we last spoke.
oh wow, yeah, I have been busy with so many things.
You got some new music out?
I do. I have a new album out. I have a band called the Star Crumbles. We just put an album out today. It's our second album. It's called The Stars That Shine.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Kind of has a bit of 80s vibe, but also maybe early 2000s. It's hard to pin down, but it's
Okay.
But definitely, I take a page from the whole Brian Wilson handbook of just pouring everything I have into the production of the song.
I love that. And where can we find it? The album's called The Stars That Shine.
Yeah, The Stars That Shine. The band is called the Star Crumbles.
Star
And
Crumbles.
It's on all the streaming services.
Just about to ask you, it's like iTunes and Spotify, that kind of thing.
Mhm. Yep.
Oh,
yep.
fantastic, man! Can we listen to some? I want to hear some of it, man. I'm
We're all about the
excited.
Beach Boys tonight.
Yeah, I know. Well, we should do a Star Crumble episode. Star Crumble talk. Have the band on. But
That's right.
Well, we're working our way
Looking forward
back.
to hearing it.
You know, before we hop into the album, I'd love to get your thoughts on the Sail On box set, and you know, because we did the album a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you know, so we were talking about it in your book, and then your book ended up being a great companion to the box set, you know, especially with all the deep cuts, the stuff that was unreleased. So what were your thoughts on Sail On, the box set?
I think the super cool thing about the box set is now you can kind of grab tracks that didn't end up on the finished album. Like you could craft your own version of it. It's almost like when the Smile box set came out. You know, it's like,
yeah.
Here's what I think Smile should be, and you put it together like a puzzle. And I even put together, just earlier today, I was fooling around. I was like, okay, here's what I think that Holland, like the ideal track lineup should have been. And it's something I mentioned in the book too, but it's the kind of thing where it's just kind of like, you know, I love Holland and I feel like it's doing some interesting things. And then my take on it was like the last two songs, like, don't get me wrong, I love those last two songs, but they don't feel like Holland to me. And so my little playlist I made, cobbled together from the Sail On Sailor box set, instead of ending with those two songs, ends with Carry Me Home, and then We Got Love.
Oh, nice.
Did you say We Got Love?
We Got Love.
Yeah.
You know, I was going to ask you about that, Mark. I don't mean to jump the gun. Thank you for being here, because I want, you know, for all our new listeners out there, I'd like you to kind of talk through why you wrote the book and all that. But I want, since you brought up We Got Love, Greg and I were talking about that. Why do you think that was? My first question was, why do you think it was left off the album, or why was it? I'm sure you know. And then my second question was going to be, do you think it should have been on there? But you already answered that kind of. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, if I remember correctly, I think it was supposed to be the first track on the album. And then I imagine it's just kind of a record company thing where, hey, we're gearing up to sell a Beach Boys product. This doesn't sound like a Beach Boys product. Because when you hear the song, I mean, when I hear that song, I'm thinking like, how can you not think that can get some radio airplay? Because I hear that and I'm just like, sounds like Stephen Stills, you know, like Love the One You're With or something like that.
Yeah, sure.
It has such a great vibe that it's almost a no-brainer to me. Like, that can be a hit. But then they left it off, and the only real plausible explanation I can kind of think of is we need to get some more traditional Beach Boys sounds on this album, especially if we're going to make it that first track.
So what was can I ask on your reimagined Holland, what was your first track?
Everything else was the same.
Okay,
Like everything was the same except for those last two tracks, and that's because I feel like uh, Holland for me delivers on the promise of Smile in some ways. You know, Smile was supposed to be this album that had the Elements suite, and it was also going to have this sweeping American history theme as well. And so, you had all that stuff about like from, do you dig worms, bicycle rider, see what you've done. All that about just kind of the manifest destiny of, people landing on Plymouth Rock and then spreading Western culture throughout the continent and driving the native people from their land. That's all in Holland. I mean, there's so much of that in Holland. You have all these songs that are just about. I mean, Traitor. When you listen to that one, it's such an emotional song, and to me, I think that what Holland is doing. They always say Brian Wilson, and I was listening a little earlier when people were talking about, what drove Brian Wilson, what was the brain. Like, I think he was the brain behind the Beach Boys, but since Van Dyke Parks was writing the lyrics for Smile, it was an incredibly intellectual exercise. And so when you listen to those lyrics, or even when you read them, you kind of have to do a bunch of decoding and, all right, what does this mean? And what's this a reference to? Whereas you listen to Traitor or any of the songs, Holland, and they just hit you on an emotional level, and you're not overly taxed in terms of interpretation.
Do you think
that's interesting?
Do you think that it was an intentional? Was there intentionality in the makeup of the album and the kind of the concept, or do you think it just happened to become what it was because the stars aligned, right? Or I mean, because obviously Sail on Sailor was not supposed to be on the album, but becomes a great opener, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you still have the pilgrim, like the pilgrim coming over on the boat, right? It's like it still works thematically, right?
Yeah, and actually that's why I would say that I think it just kind of worked out that way. I mean, they were clearly working on certain themes, but as far as the arc of the story goes, I do feel like Sail on Sailor is kind of a happy accident. I mean, it's perfect. It's like it's just sending the signal that's, hey, we're the Beach Boys. We're still here. We're still making music. We're still considering ourselves artists, and don't count us out. We've been tossed around, but we're going to keep going.
Sure.
And just the way Sail on Sailor just fades into Steamboat is so perfect. It's almost like the ship is coming in to the bay or whatever, and they're like, all right, now we got to get on the steamboat and we're going to go up the river, and we're just going to keep exploring the whole thing. That whole first side just hangs together so perfectly. And then you get to Traitor and you have Leaving This Town, and there are all these songs about both exploration but also being kind of uprooted. And that's why I think Carry Me Home is such a great song too, because it goes into this whole, I mean, you go from leaving this town, it's this sense of, uprootedness and this sense of wanting to not be home, but then you have Carry Me Home, which is, oh man, I actually want to be back. Right. And when you think about Dennis Wilson's rationale behind writing that song, the whole idea of someone dying in Vietnam, that's just pushing Manifest Destiny even further west, so far west, now you're in the east,
right? So do you, and I don't, forgive me if you answered this question, because I think Matt asked it, but do you know why? Maybe any indications in your research of why those songs were left off?
Well, definitely with Carry Me Home, I think it was kind of a downer. I mean,
sure.
I mean, when you replace that with something like, Funky Pretty or something, that's they're worlds apart.
Right.
In every sense.
Yeah, sure.
But I mean, when I hear that song though, I'm hearing, I was listening to it earlier today and I was thinking, this kind of reminds me of the band,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, agree.
Yeah, and it's just like, I could imagine this song on music from Big Pink or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
Love that.
But again, it's veering from what I imagine a Beach Boys product sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
And, because you can think about Student Demonstration Time. That's probably the most political that the Beach Boys could get, at least on a record. I mean, Carl Wilson famously said, was a conscientious objector, but they didn't write a song about that.
Right.
And so at least with Student Demonstration Time, it could be a little bit, they were at a little bit of a distance from they're just describing the action. Whereas with Carry Me Home, Dennis Wilson is imagining, what must it be like to be someone dying in that situation. And that's another step, that he is taking that another step, which is also what I feel like, I think he ducked out of the project pretty early. As enthusiastic as he was to head out to Holland and leave California, he also was very disillusioned, I think, by the fact that they weren't going to use that song.
Yeah, he seemed to be kind of traveling in a very different direction early on, and it seemed to get more distant and more distant as the decade, as it kind of goes on there towards the end, which is really sad. Was that me? Do you think? Oh, go ahead, madam.
I'm sorry, I was going to piggyback on you. They did that to Dennis early. Remember in the Surf's Up album, he had a song called "Wouldn't It Be Nice to Live Again." That wasn't on the album, and he wanted his stuff at the end of the album, and so he just took it off too, And
so. Do you guys think that, and maybe this is a question for the chat too to join in, but do you guys think that, I think Dennis separating himself from the band, do you think that was personality, relationship driven, or do you think it was more musically driven? Because I also believe that Dennis musically, and maybe take out Sans Carry Me Home here, but like I feel like his music always seems to stick out on the albums, and not always in the best way, and sometimes in the best ways, right? But like I'm trying to think, like what's the stuff on Carl and the Passions?
Make It Good?
Like, Make It Good, just it's just a different. He was like just a different thing. So I don't know. Do you think was there a lot of personality issues going on at the time here, or was it just musically they weren't really aligned?
I mean, I do think that, especially at that time, I don't know if it's necessarily contrasting personalities. It's more of the element of growing up. When they were really young and the band first started, it's like, yeah, we can all be the Beach Boys. But then, as they're becoming adults, there's this feeling of like, they have lives, they're married, they have kids, they're moving on and naturally moving in different directions, which, happens to all of us, but we don't have to do it with a big record contract behind us, right, and media following us around to know, what's the next big thing they're going to do. But when they do it, it just seems like, oh no, what happened to the fun-loving, surfer boys we used to love?
So, Mark, one of the songs you mentioned when you do your own Holland, you said the last two you would take off. That's Funky Pretty. Well, Funky Pretty's the last one, but then Only With You, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which was, I think, one of Dennis's compositions on the album. What about that one? Why would you keep that one off?
I feel like just that one is super, super polished. And I feel like the other ones have more of kind of a grittier feel to them. I mean, they still have an element of polish to them, but I feel like just the strings on that one alone just have this lush feel that might feel more at home on a different album. I mean, it would be a ways off, but
yeah.
What's that 1981 that I think Bruce Johnston, the one where they're all in the bubble.
Keeping the Summer Alive.
Keeping the Summer Alive. I feel like that could be a good Keeping the Summer Alive.
Interesting. So let me ask you this, Mark and Greg. Maybe we'll get in some of the tracks and whatever.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
and Mark, I want to ask you about again the book, why you wanted to write about Holland. But since we're still on the subject, why do you think like a Holland Part 2 never came out? Because even to this day, a lot of people say, this album was like the Beach Boys' most creative peak, or sans Brian Wilson or whatever. What do you think happened?
Well, I think a couple of things. I mean, one is they never really recaptured, say, the sales numbers. They would never have a good vibrations again.
Right.
But I also think that it's about 5 years later, 78, I think, when could be 76, when the the greatest hits packages.
Oh, the Endless Summer.
Yeah, and then
Yeah. That was in the mid, yeah.
And so I think that's once that starts to happen, and once you start having this sense of nostalgia attached to the band, yeah, they're making new records, but a lot of the themes that they're visiting in those albums are themes of looking back. They're themes of, hey, remember when we used to love going to the beach. And it's ironic. You were talking a little while back just on Facebook. I remember you posted about was it Do It Again.
Yeah.
And that was one of these weird songs when I first heard it, and this was like when I was in high school. It was probably on the Made in USA album or something like that. I heard it. I was like, okay, that has to be from 79, 80, and that's based entirely on like the effects on the drums, the sense of, hey, let's get back and do it again. Then you find out it's 68,
Right.
And you're just kind of like, oh wow, they were looking back even then.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
But not as frequently, I guess.
Yeah, I think your answer is interesting and probably correct. It's just a shame to think that but you're in the business, and Greg, you are too, mate. But I mean, sales matter, how many things you sell. But again, if this was really one of their creative peak, it seems like they had more to do. Even on the box set, you hear some songs that were not released that they had enough for another album or something, and so it's like you said, Endless Summer came out, and then it was the Brian's Back tour, and then then Love You eventually, and all that. But I sometimes think the album that reminds me the most of Holland, and I could be wrong here, you guys might totally disagree, but the feel is what I mean by it, not in theme, but it's the Light album. That one to me seems like you could play those two back to back, and they have a very similar feel. I don't know how you all feel about that, but like Baby Blue and Going South and Good Time, and those songs, and Carl's voice on there, it sounds very similar to how it did on Holland to me. But maybe I'm reaching there. I don't know.
I can see that. Maybe more like song wise than production wise. I think production is a little bit different, but
yeah, like feel wise. Yeah.
But yeah, I think if you were to, I think Baby Blue with the production of Holland would fit right in. I think Going South with the production of Holland would fit right in. Angel Come Home might even fit pretty well. So yeah,
it's almost what you said, Mark, about the roughness of it a little bit. That they're not so polished on. I wouldn't put Here Comes the Night on there. I'm not saying that, or Sumahama necessarily.
Wait, disco Here Comes the Night would be awesome.
But those Carl, I think it might be because there's a lot of Carl and Dennis songs on that album, and there's only 9 on Holland, and I think 3 or 4 of those are Carl and Dennis. Maybe that's why. I don't know. They're just similar feel, but.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You guys want to talk through maybe some of our favorite, and maybe we can get some from the chat of your favorite tunes from the album. Mark, you want to start? Do you have what's like your all-time favorite song on the album? Do you have one that you just go back to that like what's your Surf's Up of this album if we're going with the Smile theme of Holland?
Okay, yeah, I have to go with Traitor. I just think that song is such on an album of great songs, that's just a song that goes in a lot of different directions. I mean, the tempo shifts, and it goes, it has like these ups and downs that just make you just kind of feel like, there's hope, but then there's sadness, but then there's, hope again. It's, you just feel, the music itself, I think, just carries such an emotional weight and carries us through so many feelings that it's I don't know, it's hard to beat that song.
Mm-hmm. Okay, got to play a little bit of it. Is that all right?
Yeah, I'll give my take after you play it. Yeah.
Trader sailed the jewel crown, humanity rode the wave, exploring to command the land, seeming as the ruler wave. Then trader spied the virgin plain, named it for velvet rose, rode home declaring there's a base, totally folks are free. In the hillside, animals stalk the mountains and the seaside, fish abound in lakes and birds in sky. Son sincerely, trader found the jewel land was occupied before it came by humans of a second look who couldn't even write the name. Shame. Tater said they're not as good as folks who wear velvet robes, rode home declaring there's a man. Rest I see, but not like me. Banished them from the prairies and the hillside, cleared them from the mountains and the seaside. I want them off a lake, so please reply, son, sincerely. Yeah, damn it, I screwed up the words. But yeah, I love this song. I love this and Long Promise Road to me are my favorite Carl Wilson tunes. But yeah, some pretty sad lyrics, right? I mean, lyrically, it's
well then, yeah, because right after that part, there's the perspective shift where you get the indigenous people having to move. You know, I mean, just because these guys came over in boats and were like, "Whoa, I can see that their breasts are showing." Get them the hell out of here, you know. And then it's just like, oh God, well, they have guns and diseases.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the whole thing. It's like, I mean, it's a rock and roll song that is about, honestly, is about genocide and pulls away the curtain on, you know, the original sin of what is American culture, basically.
Yeah. Yeah,
not to get too deep.
No, I mean, look, it's. I think it comes across well. Now I'm trying to go. Let me look into the second part of the.
You know,
Making it
I respect what you all are saying, and I respect the theme. You know, colonizing and things like that. There's something about that song to me. It's almost like Sail on Sailor, Greg. I kind of told you this already. Like Sail on Sailor starts off, you know, and you're like, oh yeah, this is awesome. And then to me, it just goes on a little bit too long and a little bit repetitive. I feel like that's what the Trader does. Now, to be fair, I haven't listened to the lyrics as much like what you're talking about, Mark, and that might change my mind a little bit. But if I'm just putting it on to listen to, maybe I'm gonna get beat up. I just feel like it's almost like a minute too long or something, you know. And it's a little bit repetitive for my taste, but I don't know how you all feel about that. But
yeah, I kind of feel that way a little bit with Leaving This Town.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
but there's the kind of almost prog rock synth solo in the middle.
Right.
Yeah. And like when that's going on, it's like, okay.
Yeah,
you're kind of waiting for something else to happen, which isn't. But again, still like one of those songs where I'm like, still, this is a pretty cool song.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I like the Trader. And again, Carl did all of it. I'm checking the record here. He looks like he wrote the words too. So that's quite a feat. I mean, it's a pretty awesome song. I just, for having 9 tracks on it, you know, the album's not very long in general. It just seems like that song takes up a lot of space on the vinyl, you know, but maybe it was supposed to be that way. Maybe it's like Heroes and Villains or something, you know, was super long, you know, I don't know. So,
you know, part of me too wishes the Beach Boys had more leverage at this time, and they clearly didn't, right? Because the record label is still looking at and being like, nope, this isn't good enough. Go back, get us better music. But I think I'd like to think that I think they probably would have had more of kind of the tunes that you're mentioning. "Carry Me Home" and "We Got Love." Do you think that the record company relationship at this time had more to do with like what was on and off the record? Did you find that they? Because like I said, I think the story is right. They brought the album to the record company. And the record company said no, and that's how Sail on Sailor happened, right? Is that right?
Yeah, and it was just kind of like, yeah, we need a hit. We need a hit to kick this record off. And hey, I heard that there's a song that Brian wrote with Van Dyke Parks floating around out there. Can you give us that one?
Right.
And so then it's like, okay, yeah, I guess we could record that.
Yeah.
Mark, did you hear that recording on the box set of Brian just playing at the piano with the different, like the crazy lyrics when he's kind of feeling the song out?
Yeah.
It's pretty neat, right? Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, and it's so cool just to get that window into someone's creative process.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, for sure. Cool, Matt. Do you have what's your favorite one in this? What did you click? By the way, we had a Facebook poll.
We did.
Over 400 votes. It was awesome.
It was a big poll this time, and of course the 40 something percent of the vote was Sail on Sailor, of course.
Okay.
But between Sail on Sailor and Funky Pretty, that made up over 50% of the vote. And we were kind of talking about that earlier, Mark, that, Brian Wilson, say what you want. He got disinterested in the Holland project early on too and all that, but his songs still stand out on records, and it's just kind of interesting. But my favorite song on there, I went with Funky Pretty. It's not just because it's Brian, but it's because it's Brian, if that makes sense. It's not because it's a Brian Wilson song on Holland, but it's when you listen to it, it's totally Brian Wilson. It's got those quirky synthesizers. It's got the funny lyrics, and the tag at the end is awesome. And the harmony's really cool too. So to me, it's just like if I was listening to that and that's the last one on the album. I agree with you how it doesn't necessarily go with all the other songs, but as a standalone kind of, Beach Boys song written by Brian Wilson, I think it's great. And Blondie's voice at the end. Anyway, I could go on about.
Oh, definitely. And when I first heard that song, that was like the one I focused on, especially again, being, in high school, and I just bought the CD and was listening to it, and the whole thing of just like, well, hey, this doesn't sound like the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
And you get to that song and you hear, oh wait, okay, this sounds like the Beach Boys.
That's right. Yeah.
And you play that one a few times and then kind of work your way backwards into the album.
Yeah.
That's definitely how I felt about it. And I also kind of feel like that one is a nice bridge into Mount Vernon and Fairway.
Yeah.
The fairy tale.
Yeah.
And that's my other kind of take on it is, wow, what if they had allowed Brian to develop that into a full album? What if they had said, all right, Brian, you have the story, and now we're going to interlace that story with songs that feel like they fit in there, so that when you turn on the radio and you could hear the genie talking to you, now we get the song about something going on with rock and roll music, or something about like what it is to be free because you've fallen in love with this sound or something like that. Like an album along those lines would have been a super cool follow-up to what we got with with the Holland.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, on the take of Brian, it's interesting. It's crazy to me how hard they worked and ultimately failed in getting Brian involved. I remember reading or hearing somewhere that it took them multiple attempts just to get him on the plane.
Oh yeah,
to go to Hall, and it's like after the first time you'd think you'd be like, you know what, this isn't a good fit. We can do this.
Art is not in this project.
We can do this without him, and yet they still felt like that's how. Do you think that's an insecurity or like what? The band was great at this point, and yes, Matt, I think Brian's inputs, if you take out Funky Pretty, Sail on Sailor, it's definitely less of an album. I agree, but on the other hand, there are some tunes that were left off that clearly they had the power. Now, like I said, I wish they didn't have any leverage with the record company to say no, Pound Sand, we're gonna release this and you're just gonna have to eat it without a single, but But don't you guys think it's so strange that even in 1973, they still have this dependence on Brian to kind of save the day? And I guess he did in a lot of ways, right? Sail on Sailor reached, well, I don't know. I know the album reached 36 on the charts. How did Sail on Sailor do?
They put the single out twice, and the first time it didn't do that well, but then they put it out again, like after Endless Summers came out or something, and it was a top 40 hit, you know. But to your point, if you they did that with all their albums. I mean, even when they had their record contract with CBS, part of the stipulation was Brian had to write, you know, at least a third of it or something. You know what I mean? So that was all the way through, really, you know.
Yeah. And I guess
that's why you got the gem of MIU, you know, later on because of that. But, you know.
Yeah, it's like just sad.
No, I know what you're saying because, and I think it'd be interesting to talk to somebody who's in the know about, because you're right, Dennis at this point was kind of coming into his own. He kind of, you know, he first wrote songs on Friends, but then, you know, by Sunflower, he had a lot of songs on that album, you know, and then nothing on Surf's Up, which is odd. And then, you know, so he had a lot still in the bag, I think, that were unreleased too. So it is an interesting era for sure, you know. And Mark, on that note, regarding your book, why Holland, with all the eras of the Beach Boys and everything? Why did you want to write a book about this era?
It was one of those things where the first time I heard the record, as I was saying earlier, I just felt like, what is this? Like, this does not sound like the Beach Boys. But the more I listened to it, the more I was just like, but this is a really, really good album. Mm-hmm. And I know quite often, Matt, I feel like on the show, you know, you frequently talk about there's like a Beach Boys sound. I think, you know, and it's that early sound. And I agree with you. I'm just like in my mind, if you said, okay, you know, give me like 5 Beach Boys songs, you know, obviously I'm going to start with Surfing USA, Fun, you know, maybe Good Vibrations, even though that's kind of moving in a different direction, but everything else is going to come from that early era, you know. Like I just hear that opening riff of Surfing USA and like I'm in a certain mood, you know, because it's just like, yeah, that's the Beach Boys.
Yeah,
that's right.
But then listening to Holland, and then later, I think I got Surf's Up after that one. Listening to that era, I just started thinking, wow, what's going on here? And everything I ever read was basically, okay, this is the Beach Boys and here's their story arc and it builds up, and this is Brian Wilson. He was a genius, but there was all this pressure on him and he kind of had this meltdown and he was working on what was going to be his masterpiece and it fell apart. Mm-hmm. That's like the end of Act 1. Mm-hmm. And the beginning of Act 2 it's the late 70s and Endless Summer is coming out, and now and there was this whole thing in the middle that just always felt to me like, well, wait a second. What about this album I like? What about...
It's so true.
You're right. Yeah.
And so when I, you know, started looking into it, I just was just fascinated by the whole story surrounding this idea of, all right, they're really trying to reinvent themselves. And, you know, they have this kind of manager, agent, PR guy in the form of Jack Riley, who is in some ways recognizing that, okay, we have this narrative to work with. You know, we have this to answer kind of the previous question. We have this idea that Brian Wilson is a genius, and, you know, he's kind of like really working that myth. And that's kind of why Brian had to be part of the project. It had to be, it's Brian's back before Brian's back, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. You know, and so it's just like, all right, he's going to be involved. And even, you know, with Surf's Up, that was part of the mythology there. It was, all right, we're going to resurrect the song Surf's Up that everyone was expecting to hear on Smile. And then we're going to have these other songs. And, you know, the thinking at the time was Brian was super involved in that album when he wasn't, you know? And then when Carl and the Passions came out, one of the reviewers even said, you know, this album's fine, but what's sorely missing from this album is Brian Wilson. And Brian was a lot more present on Surf's Up. But it's like he wasn't. That was just the story.
Yeah, it was right. Yeah.
All right, we got to tell that story again so people think Brian's here. And he is, and he shows up, and he has that great line at the beginning of like, "On my way to sunny California," like that.
That's right.
Like, Brian steps up to the mic, and like suddenly you're like, "Yeah, Beach
There
Boys."
he is. That's right.
It's so funny. It's I think it's a real testament. It's really telling about how potent Brian's music was in the mid 60s. Like Matt, that classic era you love, that 64 to 66.
Yeah.
Like what kind of music do you have to create that's so good that 7 years later your brothers are basically tying you down to an airplane to get you out to Holland like you're a commodity. You know what I mean? Like it's like, no, we need you here. Your music is that good that you just
and even if he doesn't want to be there, he still arguably wrote the best song on the album. And that's not a shot to the other guys. It's just that's what Brian Wilson was.
Mark, do you ever feel and feel free to brag about this, but do you ever feel like you were way ahead of the curve on Holland? And did you feel validated when they came out with a box set? Cause you're like, yeah, I've been saying this for forever. Did you check out my book? Like, you know what I mean? Like that must have felt kind of good in a way.
Oh my God. Super validated. I was like, I was waiting for him to call me up and like, hey, can we include your book in the box set?
That was my next question was, did anybody ever, like reach out to you at all about anything? Cause you should have been, if not, and it would have been perfect. It would have
been fun. It would have been awesome, but no, because I think it's still obscure enough. And I also think, when you self-publish a book, there's still this level of like, as a guy is a hobby and he writes some stuff.
We don't feel that way at all. This is 100% not the case. Yeah.
Well, thank you. But I think I really it was super validating. It was almost like I was at this party, but I was the only one at the party for a really long time. And then I was like, did I get the time? Am I at the right place? And then like you guys invited me on. I was like, okay, cool. There's some people at this party. Then the box set came out. I was like, all right, now it's a rockin' party. Everyone's here.
I do kind of feel like we're at the I'm just proud that we didn't start the party. You kind of started the party a little bit.
I love that song.
But I feel like we at least attended the party before everyone else attended the party. And a lot of Beach Boy talkers that were here 3 years ago.
It's becoming really cool now to like excuse me, Beach Boys 70s, the Feel Flows box set, now the Sail on Sailor, and all of a sudden I mean, I have people with whom I work, in their 20s, 30s, in education, and they talk about these songs now about the Beach Boys, right. Not Help Me Rhonda and I Get Around. They're talking about Sail on Sailor and, stuff. It's kind of amazing to me. So you're right, Greg. Mark, you were way ahead of the game with that. So, did you guys see there's a book that was written by a man? His name is Peter. I forget his last name, but it's all written in
Tetero.
Yeah, it's all written in Dutch, but it's about the making of the Holland album. And I think he's trying to get it into English, but that would be,
that'd be interesting.
You got any thoughts on that? It'd be kind of neat, huh?
Yeah, no, I'd love to read it. I mean, it's really cool. I mean, he'd probably be an interesting guy to talk to. The two of us just talking shop about writing a book about Holland would be fun.
Well, maybe next time, Matt, we should do a Holland Revisited, and we should have just Peter and Mark just kind of chat Holland, and we just sit back and listen to the master's work. Be kind of fun.
Mark, let me ask you about this back to the album a little bit. Let me find I don't want to not do it justice. The California. What are your thoughts on the California saga as a whole thing? I get the song that the one that Al wrote, and Big Sur. They put out a really cool version of Big Sur. With Mike Love singing that. I think that might be one of his best compositions. The one that I don't get though is the Beaks of Eagles. But could you maybe talk about how they kind of came up with that and put it on the album?
Yeah, that one is Robinson Jeffers. He's a poet, and he wrote that poem Beaks of Eagles, and Al Jardine was a big fan. And I guess Robinson Jeffers, his outlook was he was informed by a philosophy called anti-humanism, which isn't like, it's not against humanity, but it's against the idea that, I guess it's against the philosophy of humanism, which is like the notion that human beings are at the center of all creation. And so he was exploring this idea that that humans are just one species on Earth, and the whole poem is really about this notion that things are just going to keep happening whether we're here or not. And it was kind of highly philosophical, and definitely, you're not going to get a party started with that track. But and so what you're kind of left with is what I interpret as I don't know, the Beach Boys going a little arty, for lack of a better word. That track always reminded me of the Moody Blues on the Days of Future Past. That thing at the end of Nights in White Satin, where it's like they read that poem about.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, sure.
I kind of thought, like, in the context of like trying to do something artistic and pushing boundaries a little bit with an album, yeah, that kind of works. And maybe a little bit in the context of some of the jokier spoken word things the Beach Boys had done in the past, like the Sonny Wilson and
that, yeah.
Sorry. And so it kind of fits. Although later, Al Jardine was interviewed, and I believe he said something along the lines of, yeah, maybe I should have edited that down a little more. Maybe I went a little too far with the reading of that poem.
Yeah, I think if I were to edit it, I probably would have cut a little bit off the beginning and then cut the end and then just erase everything in the middle and then just move on. That's probably the edit I would have made for actually the entire thing.
Mark, it goes back to what you were saying, though. I guess this thought just came to my mind, but it's still like Americana, kind of like you said with Smile, right? If it's an American poem about something like that, I could see how Brian was kind of going for that, ethereal, whatever, progressive stuff with Smile too. So maybe, like you said, it kind of fits that way.
And I have to say, I think the music in the background of that one is super cool. It's haunting. It has that kind of reverb on it, and it's like a little bit of I'm guessing it's like a lap steel guitar or something like that. But I mean, it has that. It sounds like, I don't know, like the Grand Canyon or something like that. I mean, it just has this very cool Western tone to it, and this really interesting feel that, even though the poem does go on for a little while, there's still something haunting about the music.
Yeah.
One of the comments in the chat from Soprano Tony. Hey, Tony said, love the segue into California from Beaks of Eagles. I do agree with that, because if you listen to the whole record and you hear Big Sur, then you hear Beaks of Eagles, and again, it might be pretty, but it's like, what is this? And then all of a sudden you do I'm on my way to, and you're like, oh, there they are, so it is kind of cool that way.
Yeah.
Get back to the Beach Boys.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, enough of the artsy stuff. Let's rock,
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually like that one. Never mind. I should say. And I love Mike's vocal on the lead, because it does have the California. It does have that reminiscent of course, you keep going back. It's reminiscent of Brian. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like Brian Wilson. Yeah.
I mean, that's got the same.
It's hard to get away from Brian, it seems.
California Girls or something,
Oh, yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's really neat. There was a couple other songs. What was one of them called, Greg? I think it was called Give Me Some Lovin'. Do you know anything about that one, Mark? That was on the box set. Was that
a cover,
was that
right?
Holland Air, or was that before Holland Air? Do you know?
You know what? I don't really know that one. Like, I mean, I don't know the story with that one. Like,
okay, yeah.
All of my research at the time was really just into what was on Holland itself.
Oh, on the actual, yeah.
And like, I picked up a couple of things that were just kind of like, I mean, especially with the two I mentioned earlier. Kind of explicitly left off.
Yeah.
And as far as like other material generated around the time, I didn't really pick up on much of that.
Guys, can we? Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Can we talk about Can I talk about my favorite song on the album? Can we sing a little bit? I'd love to sing it a little bit, and then I'm gonna indulge, and then I'd love to talk through it, because it's a Dennis Wilson, Mike Love collaboration, which I think historically those two guys kind of butt heads in a lot of stories, a lot of things that have been written that they didn't get along a ton, or they did and they didn't. I'm not really sure, but this is one of my favorite Beach Boys songs ever, and it's my favorite on the album. I love Carl's vocal. I love the lyrics. I think it's a great tune. I'm gonna sing a little bit of it. We'll see. Hopefully, don't get any ads up on this. Here we go. Love so many things that I feel that I've only felt with you, only with you. And then there are the things that we do that I've only done before. Love it always had its ups and downs. Onto the love I finally found. Man, I think it's the best song on the album. It might be, besides maybe Forever, it's got to be Dennis's. I mean, what's better than that from Dennis? I think it's a great tune, and I love that he teamed up with Mike on that, because obviously they butted heads a lot, but there's a lot of love in that tune, a lot of family. I mean, it's so cool that they connected, and I'd love to talk to Mike about that. You know what I mean? His memories of Dennis and writing that with Dennis. It must have been a peaceful moment for them, right? And a moment. But what do you guys think on that tune?
Well, I was gonna make a comment. Joel in the chat said Carl is great, but it's too bad Dennis didn't sing Only With You on Holland. It would have been rather raw, or emotionally, what Dennis did for Angel Come Home. But I was actually going to say the opposite. I think one of the things that makes that better is that Carl is singing it. I think sometimes Dennis's vocals are a little like I think about Carl and the Passion So Tough, and I think about Make It Good, and that kind of thing, where it's just a little bit. Again, I'd be in trouble here, but a little bit over the top. I think Carl was a better singer in my opinion. So I think the fact that Dennis wrote that, it's one of those songs, like you said, Greg, is almost for him is perfect. It ends. It's got everything you need, and with Carl's kind of gentle vocal, I think that makes it. I don't think it would have been as good with Dennis singing, but that's just my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Mark, your thoughts on this tune?
I think it's a great tune. I think that's the thing. It's also one of those, like, when you have a tune that is that great, it almost feels like it's, I guess, to my earlier point, above the album. It's almost like this is standing out so much that the rest of the album kind of feels like, oh wow, this was some cool stuff we were working with, and now there's this thing, and then and Funky Pretty's still good too, obviously, but it is this almost like this polished gem when everything else is just more of this I don't know, diamonds in the rough kind of stuff. But I also, I kind of like I like the vulnerability of Dennis's voice. He always sounds like he's heartbroken, when he's a song like Forever. It's this sense of like, if every word I said could make you laugh, like I know it can't.
But
if
that's
it could, I would talk forever. It's like this sense of like, and just knowing what I know about his life, it was just this like eternal desire to make other people happy. And you just feel that ache in his voice whenever he sings, I think.
Yeah, he definitely had a hole, you know what I mean? And it seemed like, from what we know from talking with Fred Vale and Matt, Scott Wilson, and we talked with dang it, we were with him in California. He wrote the book.
John Stebbins.
John Stebbins.
Yeah.
All these cats that talk about Dennis and it just seemed like he always sang like and even the love songs sound sad. I'd never heard that before about Forever, because I always looked at Forever from like the Uncle Jesse, like looking at Aunt Becky, and it's like they're in love, and this is like a love song, and this is so cool. But when you listen to the actual record and then you have that take on it that you had, Mark, which I think is really neat, it kind of changes the way I think about that tune completely, because when you match it up with that thought and his voice, it totally makes more sense. And I actually agree with, was it Joel that, who said that, Matt? Was it Joel?
Joel, yeah.
I might agree with Joel. And I'm the biggest Carl Wilson fan on the planet. I love Carl. Carl's my favorite of all time. I love Carl. He's the best. But I actually agree, and I agree with Mark that I think his raw vocal here on this tune, I think would have been even more perfect or whatever. I think it would have worked. Kind of like the Angel Come Home, or no, what's the part he sings on Baby Blue? Late
at night when the whole world.
Like if he had done that kind of thing on Only With You, I mean, can you imagine? It would have been, because I actually probably put Only With You ahead of Forever in terms of, I think I like it better. I think it would be cool, but man, Mark, that's a pretty cool thought.
Yeah, and Mark, to your point there, that you're right. Baby Blue to me that's my favorite Dennis song, and he sings the middle part exactly like you said. When he sings, he's like you said, long. At that point, he's got all the rasp and all that, but it's very, very emotional. So maybe I'm wrong on that take. It's possible, but I like Carl's voice. I think as Carl got older, his voice got better. I've said that before, and I like his vocals on. I think Tom Petty talked about it one time. His vocals on The Traitor. He said they're like the greatest vocals he ever heard. And I think Carl's just sharp in all those records there. So
yeah. And he's really reaching both an emotional and musical maturity at that point. He's not Brian's little brother so much.
Yeah.
Or at least he's not necessarily in the shadow of Brian Wilson so much, because Brian's not even like coming out of his hole to cast a shadow at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's Carl's like, look, I got to do this. I got to take the reins. And I would say starting with I Can Hear Music, that's probably like, the first time I think was that one of the first Carl produced Beach Boys tracks?
I did, yeah. It's one that had Brian's not on that at all. Yeah, you're right. It was I Can Hear Music. Yeah.
Dance, guys. No, I'm just kidding.
And I mean, it's a beautiful track. I love that song. But at least in that instance, it's still kind of in the Brian Wilson mold, I would say. It's like here are the tricks, production tricks I've learned from my older brother.
Yeah.
Then from there, he starts building up to, but I can kind of open up spaces that are different from the kinds of musical moods that Brian creates.
Yeah.
It's I've seen this in the chat a few times, and I think you mentioned it too, Mark, but Holland really seems like more of a mature effort, like grown men now, and you kind of alluded to that, and that makes sense to me. But these songs do have a sense of melancholy to them. I think that might be one of the reasons this album, when I listen to it, it doesn't excite me. I can listen to it, but it's not like you said when you hear the opening riff to Surfing USA and you're like, okay, this has like a sadness to it almost. I don't know if I'm wrong in saying that, but that's what it feels like to me, a little bit.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. But I guess that's the other thing. It's like I'm not always, but sometimes like I'm drawn to that kind of a sound.
Sure,
I'm often just kind of like, oh, maybe I'm in a Holland mood. It's like the days are getting shorter, and I'm kind of feeling I'm feeling a little wistful. Maybe I'll listen to Holland today.
Yeah. Well, and it's even more, I think, to add to the depressing nature and sound of the album. By the way, sorry, you know what I was remembering, Matt, was we had Chip, the late great Chip Ratchlin on the show. What a sweet guy, and what a huge part of the Beach Boys making this comeback during this era and like playing Carnegie. And that's the first time I was thinking about that, because it's the first time I heard Only With You from that concert. Is Carl singing. It does an awesome job. But Chip had mentioned, going back to talking about Dennis. Remember, Matt, Chip told the story of he was with Dennis and Dennis was playing him some new songs or something. And I think Chip had said, hey, why aren't you doing, like, why aren't these going on the Beach Boy albums? And he said, nobody, his response was, nobody wants to hear a Dennis Wilson song or something. Something like that.
I remember that now.
Just like super, super sad. But even, I think just as sad is talking about Carl being completely cut off at the knees. You guys talking about it, reaching musical maturity. They're starting to sound like a band without Brian kind of thing. It's like, okay, we're doing it. Let's keep moving in this direction. And all of a sudden, nope, Carl.
Endless Summer, yeah.
Carl, your only job from here on out is to play the guitar part in Fun, and to sing Good Vibrations and God Only Knows. You know what I mean? And so it's like, that had to have been kind of a gut punch when Endless Summer came out, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think though, to an extent, like in terms of creating new music,
yeah,
he was also, I'm pretty sure he was like musical director of the band, from that point on.
Yeah.
So it would always be like, all right, well, he's making decisions about what the live songs would sound like and what arrangements would be. So at least, it's not the same as being, I guess, the artist who's creating new songs, new albums, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But at least it's something that's not just like being devoted completely to.
Like one of the many moods contest submissions said that actually it said is related to this. It said that Carl actually had more to do with the Beach Boys becoming a nostalgia act than Mike did, and I was like, maybe that one should have won. That's kind of a hot take. That should have
won. What's the context behind
that's all it said. It didn't say anything else, but like it makes sense what you're saying, Mark. If he was in charge of they saw the concerts now as this big, cash machine, and people wanted to play the hits. And you're right, Greg, that probably did hurt Carl a little bit, but it's kind of like they all went along with that. And then when we read the other many moods, they talked about Mike and how Mike gets a lot of flack. Here's the thing. Mike is all over the Holland album, and he's progressive. Big Sur is progressive, Beaks of Eagles, all that stuff. Sometimes I think the stuff that Mike didn't want to mess with the formula, Mike only wanted to do Cars and Girl, whatever, is not true, So but then when we get into the Endless Summer era, right after Holland, Mike gets blamed again for that, So I guess we'll never know for sure what happened, but it is kind of interesting. But they all kind of had to agree to that collectively, I would assume, right, Greg, to just move on and start playing your hits.
I don't know. But like, there's so many outward signs like that manifested themselves from Carl that showed that he was not necessarily happy, right? Like he kind of deteriorated. Of course, if I'm on stage and I'm singing like Fun, and my latest record is a 10-minute Here Comes the Night disco, I'd probably lose my mind too, right? Like, so it's like, and then ultimately it led to what? He quit the touring band.
Yeah, he quit in 81 or something like that.
81. And a lot of people say it was because of the live, but it would make more sense that it was more about what they were recording in the studio. Because MIU, like what is that crap?
Okay, but he was all over the Light album, like you said. He what's the songs on there? Angel Come Home, Going South, right? And then he sings on a bunch of them. And then
sorry, Mark, we're going off on a tangent here. We probably should chill. Hold on. We're doing a Beach Boy talk thing.
I was just going to say 1980, keeping the summer alive. So they were putting out music. I guess the biggest question I have, Mark, is just I just wish I knew why they didn't. It's the what ifs. It's just like we talked about. What if Brian didn't take psychedelics or whatever? What if they made another follow up after Holland? It's just the timing is so strange. They did it, like you said, it didn't sell well, and then they're like, well, let's go to what sells well. But
didn't it sell well? Like, I thought it did well, right?
I mean, it didn't. It's like doing well, and there's doing well compared to like the best you've ever done.
Yeah, like Today or Summer Days or something.
That's not very fair. They're living in that shadow again, kind of thing.
Well, hold on. Yeah, that's true. I could tell you what it did.
It reached 36 in the U.S. and 20 in the UK, I think.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty successful, but
if my record did that,
I know.
Yeah.
If anybody's record, yeah, but yeah, I guess comparing it to, the stuff in the 60s. It's
Yeah, and I also wonder, I mean, I'm not sure about, the details of the record deal or how much money. I mean, I think sometimes, when a record company fronts like some massive fortune because they're banking on you're going to give us the thing, you are going to deliver Smile for us, and you're going to, capture that lightning in a bottle that you captured 8 years ago. And that doesn't happen. I feel like that's when things start to go sour, and you're never just judged based on your own record sales. It's always compared to, well, who else is in our catalog? Who else is on our roster? Well, why aren't you doing what these guys are doing? We have this new band we just signed, and they're selling like loads of records.
Like, is it like, what's more depressing? Let me ask you, Mark, what's more depressing? The fact that Smile never came out, like that crashed and never came out, or the fact that the next album after Holland is 15 Big Ones. What's more depressing as a Beach Boy fan?
I think 15 Big Ones, and only because the fact that Smile didn't come out was for a long time the best thing about Smile.
It was I think it still is. I
mean,
agree with you.
Like there was this legend that just kept going, and people would talk about it, and maybe you got a bootleg tape. Maybe you had some really hissy cassette that someone, copied 10 generations back, and you're like, putting together your version. I think Smile would have sounded like this, and then this would have gone into it. That was one of the things that got me into the Beach Boys in the first place. The whole idea that there was this mystery album that came out.
Yeah. You almost wish that, okay, I think the three of us need to work for Capitol. And here's my thought. If we go back in time, they probably would have gotten way more longevity and way more fans and way more intrigue and buildup if they had almost created their own underground, like released some things, but put it out as a different name and then called it a leak. You know what I mean? And worked that whole thing like a puppet master kind of thing versus putting anything out. It almost would have been better. It's like when the Cubs won the World Series. You're like, yeah, it's great, but now it's like, now what? It's like, well,
curse is over.
Yeah. It's like, okay, but yeah, they put it out and it's like, oh, well, now we know, but yeah, they could have,
yeah. I mean, it is interesting.
Going.
They talk about like releasing and this is kind of hearsay, but that there was talk that they would change the name of the band from the Beach Boys to just the Beach.
Oh yeah, right.
Because
I think Brian wanted to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
It was like, oh, we're not boys, and even Holland almost feels like it was forcing the issue in the sense of, all right, well, even Mike is singing songs about, his kids growing up, playing on the beach at low tide and all that kind of stuff. That's not about racing your car up and down the street.
Right.
Yeah. And another interesting thing I'm looking at here, since we were on the topic, when they first started, not touring, but I mean, touring with the Holland album, they were playing Funky Pretty, Leaving This Town, California, Saga, California, Sail on Sailor. 3 of those are on that concert album, Carly Munoz is on there and all that. But Keith Badman said, I'm reading here that it said, according to critics, noted some unusually long pauses between each song and the group's sometimes negative reaction to any audience request for oldies. So even when in the early 70s, when they'd go out and play their new music, they were getting requests for oldies. It's almost a curse, right? That Brian Wilson was so productive, with the Beach Boys for those 3 years or whatever.
And when you listen to those versions on that concert album, I love that version of Help Me Rhonda.
Oh yeah.
But it's like they can't play that after like 1976 because people want to hear
You're right.
But it's not which is how, like, the first time I heard that, again, being in high school, like, I got these two, I'm going to listen to this one. And you first hear it, and it's just kind of like, oh, that's weird. The track listing says this should be Help Me Rhonda. And, and you're like, oh, wait, it is Help Me Rhonda. Geez, this is an awesome version of Help Me Rhonda. I love this.
Yeah, it's interesting for sure. Interesting time. It's fascinating. That's why I'm glad we have your book to look at for that, Mark, because it really is a neat. It's just a random thing. Let's go to Holland and do an album. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, where did that come from?
Yeah, it's interesting. So
Yeah.
and then of course they go to Holland, and then a lot of the songs are about how they're missing California. They wanted to leave California, and then they get over there, and you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, Mark, what you obviously you got the band going on. We got the release of Stars That Shine, which excited about that. We'll have to make sure we post that on the pages.
Yeah.
Can you kind of talk us through the ideas behind this record and what else you got going on? Are you any thoughts on writing anymore, Beach Boy related or not?
I haven't written that much. Well, I mean, last time we talked, had I written the children's book about the kid who builds a drum kit?
I don't think so.
Oh man, I don't
Okay,
remember, but my memory is terrible. So
I did. I wrote a book called I wrote and illustrated a children's book last summer. It was called Frankie Lumlet's Janky Drum Kit.
what?
And it's about a little kid who it's actually a lot like the Mount Vernon and Fairway fairy tale in the sense about this kid who's just like going about his business, eating oatmeal for breakfast, and one day his friend goes by on his bike and he has a transistor radio, and he hears like rock and roll for the first time. This kid's like, oh my god, what is that? And his friend's like, oh no, it's this. It's like, well, what's that in the background? It's like, oh, that's the drums. And the kid's like, oh my god, I have to play drums, and he just keeps bugging his parents, who refuse to buy him a drum kit. So he just starts like collecting buckets and pans and stuff, and like builds his own drum kit out of whatever he can find around the house. So that was last summer. I wrote that. It was just a fun thing to write.
Mark,
go ahead.
I love how creative you are. I think you're just a creative guy, and I love that not only that, but you like. There's a lot of like it's very action. Like you're doing it, and I think that's and doing it at a high level. It's awesome, man. I'm a huge fan. I love it.
That's the thing. I'm always just like if I'm not doing something, I'm either bored or depressed. It's just kind of like,
okay, well.
I got to go do something, or else things are going to start to go downhill.
Mark, did the box set coming out and all that, and all the new information or anything? Did you have any thoughts about maybe updating your book at all, or anything like that, or you think it's all in there? What needs to be in there?
Yeah, second edition.
Yeah. I think most of it's in there. I mean, I feel like if I were to do a second edition, I would feel a little slightly guilty about it in the sense of I wouldn't be making that many changes. I feel like there's a second edition.
You should add a picture of you on the front, like in the and then call it the brand new.
Yeah.
Illustrated version.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I could draw pictures. Sure.
There you go.
It's neat. What do you want people to think in general? Somebody's not a big Beach Boys fan. They know their hits. How do you sell Holland to somebody like that?
I think in the context of a lot of the music that was coming out at the time, I was just watching a documentary. I think it was on Apple Plus.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called 1971, and it's just I don't know, 8 or so episodes about music and politics in 1971.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
And it's what the Beach Boys were doing at that time fits in perfectly with just everything. I mean, they were sincerely of their time. I mean, you had a lot of people writing quieter, more pensive albums. I mean, Elton John's first album, listen to that and compare it to Surf's Up or Holland. They're on par with each other. Listen to, or even just look at what was happening to other bands. Like one thing I was thinking about today was, this could have been a hot take. All right. The Beach Boys always get criticized for skipping out on the Monterey Pop Festival, right? And it's like, all right, skipping the Monterey Pop Festival ended the Beach Boys' career as kind of respectable artists.
Mm-hmm.
But attending Altamont had the same effect on the Rolling Stones. I mean, not in terms of being respectable artists, but it's like, oh crap. And then like they kind of had to go for a while. And then that was when they went and had to go to France to record Exile on Main Street. So it's just kind of like a little bit of a parallel there, I think.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? I mean, it could have been I mean, also the other thing when people mention that, Look, I've heard every live thing available from them at that time. I don't know that that would have been a good thing for them. They were not like.
Yeah, you're not going to hear
it was,
like the
it was,
studio version of that song.
No, it was not. No, it was pretty bad. I mean, now if it had been the Beach Boys in 1973, I would have said, hell yeah, get them up there. This is going to change the world, because their live act during this period of the Holland album is phenomenal. Those Carnegie concerts are.
Oh, they're great.
They're thrilling. Yeah, they're really great to live. You feel like you're at a concert. The sound of the recordings are great. But yeah, in 60, what was it, 67?
Yeah, and that live Hawaii show is a good indicator of what they would have sounded like.
Yeah.
Maybe they would have practiced more, but
no. The answer is no. They would.
I don't know. I think they dodged a bullet. Fred Vail says that was a big mistake, but I think they may have dodged a bullet with that.
Yeah.
Going out and singing Surfin' or Hawaii, in 1967. You know what I mean? It's not with that crowd probably wouldn't have been the best thing for their career, but
Yeah, seriously.
Well, Mark, man, can't thank you enough for joining us. I really, really appreciate it, man. It's been an honor as always.
This was fascinating.
Yeah. We're gonna everybody. We will link Mark's new record out with the star. It's called they're called the Star Crumbles. Star Crumbles. Yep, Star Crumbles, and the name of the album is Stars That Shine, which I love. Now, is that a Brian reference or a Beach Boys reference?
No, the guy I write music with, he came up with that.
Really?
I write the music. His name's Brian
cool.
Lambert. He lives in Denton, Texas, actually. So we're not even geographically close to each other.
That's one of my favorite Beach Boy lyrics probably ever. Wild Honey, right? Or what?
Here comes the night.
Stars that shine.
Yeah, here comes the night. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So awesome. All right, Mark. Well, hey, thanks again for joining us, man. We really appreciate it.
We appreciate you, and thanks for sticking with our show, and being a supporter of it and all that. We love it. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm a big fan.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, Mark.
Big fan of you.
Man. Okay.
Take care.
Bye-bye. My heart was breaking till you started making me feel.
I could talk to him for a long time. He's just a nice guy, neat guy.
He's really a great guy. He's a fan too, which is nice. You can have just a kind of an off the wall conversation, which unfortunately we did. We got off topic a couple times, but it's nice to have a guest on that you can kind of just shoot the breeze with, talk the Beach Boys, and is really insightful. So everybody, if you haven't purchased a copy of Tired of California, the Beach Boys Holland, please do. Not only is it an excellent read, but it's written by a great guy, and we want to support all these folks that are giving us this awesome content. So if you already have a copy, maybe buy one for a friend. If you already have a friend with a copy, buy one for someone that maybe is not a Beach Boy fan, and pair it up with this. Be a good gift, Matt, to give any music fan that maybe doesn't know the Beach Boys, buy them this book, and then the Holland album, and package it up,
Yeah, or the box set even, either one, yeah.
Yeah, but I like the idea of having this with the album. You know what I mean? It doesn't get into any of the extra stuff. It's just you can kind of focus.
I thought that was really neat. I wanted to ask him that question, and I'm glad I got to about the other songs that weren't on the album. He said, no, my focus was just, with the exception of those two he mentioned, was just the ones on the album. And I think that's fair too, just to focus on those. I thought the fact he kind of said the parallels to Smile was, he might've said that the first time he was on, but that was a few years ago, but that's something that's really interesting. That makes a lot of sense. It's deeper subject matter on that album,
That was interesting. Thematically, It's really similar. And I was listening to, what was I listening to today? Oh man, Greg. I was listening to a track off of Holland today, and I could have swore I heard a piano part from Child is the Father of the Man. And I can't remember what it was. And immediately I thought back to a quote at some point from Dennis Wilson saying that Smile had been released already in some shape or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I swear I was listening to what song was it?
You sure it wasn't Little Bird. You were listening to Holland?
I was listening to Holland. No, it was 100% Holland. I think it was, damn. There's a song on Holland I was listening to today in the car, and I'm like, wow, that piano part is just like Child is the Father of the Man. like that kind of thing going on. Kind of, that's not correct, but
trying to think about which song that would have been.
Dang
on
it!
here.
What was it? Anywho, I hope y'all had a fun time with us tonight. Talking about Holland. If you haven't listened to Holland and haven't gotten into it, it's a great record. This is a great thing, great book to pair with it as you're making your way through. Get some context, which helps.
I really
helps
appreciate hearing Mark, because it's like anything, Greg. When you know, it's kind of like me with MIU in a way. I'm not comparing myself to Mark, but what I'm saying is Mark really has a passion for that album, for Holland, and he wrote a book about it. So hearing him speak about it, and then going back and listening to it with the things he said, you know what I mean? It just gives me a different perspective on it and a different way to listen to it. So that's one of the neat things we get to do with our show is something like that, So I'm going to give it a listen again tomorrow, I think. And kind of in that lens that he talked about, I'm going to try to listen to The Traitor more carefully, the lyrics and everything. So,
he's a great guy, great artist, great creator. Hey, Matt, speaking of creators, content creators. So the next 2 weeks we have a 2-part show. It's going to be big. It's going to be really fun. So you don't want to miss this. Wait. No, we don't. Dang it. Don't listen to me. I didn't say any of that. Next week we're going to do something absolutely completely different from tonight, right, Matt?
This is going to be the biggest crowd we ever had. I guarantee it.
It's going to be the biggest show we've ever had, because we're about to do an album and it's a banger. You ready to announce it, Matt? Go ahead.
Well, this is kind of Greg's version of, how I love MIU. This is Greg's, and we're going to do. I do
love this album.
Wait, what's the name of the album?
Are you serious?
Oh, Summer in Paradise.
We're doing some Summer in Paradise next week.
Paradise.
So
Greg's
bring your hate. Bring the hate. I feed off of it. It nourishes me. We're very, very excited to next week finally dig into Summer in Paradise. Matt, we should find Hawaiian shirts, and I can wear.
I got the other Mike Love hat.
We got these hats.
Yeah. I got the black one.
You know what you should wear, Matt? You should wear like a Baywatch one piece. That would be awesome.
I'll wear that Billy shirt. That would work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm looking forward to though, Greg, and a lot of people have said this in the comments when we play the albums, when you do it, how they sound just stripped down with a piano.
Yeah.
And these songs I am not as familiar with, I'll be honest with you, Summer in Paradise. So I got to give that a listen. After listening to Holland, I got to listen to Summer in Paradise. But the thing is, I'm looking forward to hearing you play the songs with just the piano.
Dude, still surfing. Oh my gosh, what a great
part of Summer in Paradise is the production, is the thing, the fake drums and all that, But
what? Everybody says that. I think production is fine. It sounds of the time.
What's it called? Lahani Aloha or Lanani something?
I actually still don't know how to pronounce that. Lahaina.
I like that one.
Lahaina Aloha. Lahaina Aloha, still surfing. What's the cover they do?
Have fun in the summertime under the boardwalk. Hot fun in the summertime.
After school.
You know what it is though?
Summertime.
Any album with Carl singing as much as he does is worth listening to anyways,
Strange Things Happen.
Strange Things Happen, yeah. I don't know all those songs on there. Slow Summer Dancing, isn't that on there? Isn't a Bruce one?
Yeah, there is a Bruce one on there, which is interesting. Is it weird that Mike is probably sleeping somewhere like very close to me?
Dude, I saw the pitch. It's on Facebook now.
Is it bad?
It was pretty bad, but again, it's.
You guys, can we pull up the pitch? Will you guys stick around if we play?
Pull it up, yeah.
Let me pull up the pitch. We'll watch it. Give me a second, Matt.
We love you, Mike Love. Don't worry about it, buddy. And
we want to just see the pitch.
And of course, everybody, tomorrow night the Beach Boys, Mike and Bruce band, Beach Boys, is in Cleveland, and Greg's going to go. So, Greg, I'm looking forward to hearing your review of that. I doubt they'll play a song from Holland. Anybody think? Maybe Sail on Sailor? Maybe. So.
Oh my God, man, I got it.
You got it? Okay.
Hold on.
Live version of Summer in Paradise is pretty.
Make this
you know what? Man, you're right. I like the live version better because of that. Because again, you have a real band with music and stuff. They sang it on that 1993 concert, which was cool. And I just don't like the drum machine and all that. But Macrina, you were there.
With a few friends.
Beach Boys were just in Pittsburgh Sunday. Did you see them?
A few hundred more.
Yeah,
Make this the summer every adventure feels electric.
We gotta listen to this
Make
Jeep
this
commercial.
the summer of Jeep.
Okay. Sonny, you said, "Are you kidding? Why not do go in public? Just as bad. Well, not really. Has car."
Hey, you stop that. Okay, Matt, I'm going to try and share.
Oh, Ian said, "Hello, Ian. Thank you for being here." He said, "Looking very much forward to the SIP chat. The internet will blow up. Bandwidth completely compromised." Yeah, we're expecting that one to be a doozy, so we'll get on there. But to be fair, Greg and I give every album a fair shot, benefit of the doubt, all the Beach Boys, and what they do. I think Greg actually, you think MIU is worse than Summer in Paradise, correct?
100%.
100%. Yikes.
Dude, song for song. I'm sorry, I hate to say it. It's
Hey, one thing MIU is lacking a lot of is Carl Wilson. I will say that. That's true.
All right, Matt. Let's get our reaction. It's reaction
Thank you, Connie.
time.
All right, let's see it.
Here we go. Still surfing. All right, everybody, hold on to your butts. We're about to watch Mike Love throw the first.
Yeah, Ed, we're showing it right now.
Woo! Mike! Are they playing the Beach Boys in the background? Oh, they are. They're playing I Get Around. How cool is that?
I'm in a little bit of a delay. I can't see it yet.
Oh, there's Slider. Oh, I wish I would have gone.
Yeah, you could have saw him.
Dang
tonight,
it.
huh?
No, we could. I had the show tonight. Dang it. Matt.
That's kind of neat that whoever's in charge of that stuff recognized that he was there, and asked him to do the first pitch.
That's great marketing. Yeah, I love that. It's cool they were playing the Beach Boys. Dude, I thought it was a pretty good pitch. He threw it from the mound, man.
Oh, you have a different angle. You got to see it from the other. Now that I'm seeing it, the other angle is from his back, and you can see where it actually goes.
Oh yeah, I don't.
You can see it there.
I don't have the angle.
I thought he did all right. He looks like he was an athlete at some time, So, how about that? With
What
Guardians
do you want him to
jersey?
do? Like wind up and throw a 90-mile-an-hour fastball like right down the middle? Like what was the preferred outcome there?
I don't know. They're asking an 81-year-old guy to do that anyway, but whatever. Good for you, Mike. Congratulations. And good luck tomorrow. Greg, I hope you get to meet those guys. That would be cool. That is true. I just saw Mike Love's Summer of Love. Yeah, Greg, are you going to rap that song next week? That's on the album, Summer of Love.
Hey now, 'cause it's a love thing. Like on the beach, and I'm going to the... I don't know the words, but we're going to do it. We're going to do it all.
The harmonies in the background are cool because they're like, wow. They're like vintage Beach Boys harmonies,
Yeah.
But it's just
what else is on that album?
Forever with Stamos.
Oh, dude, that's classic.
Maybe we got to get see if Stamos will come on and talk about that. That'd
Can
be
we
cool.
just get... I'm telling you, the day we get Stamos on, it's our last show. It's our finale. That's it.
He'd be appropriate for that album.
I would love if we get Stamos on.
Yeah, they redid Surfin', like the song.
Oh yeah,
Surfin'.
Surfing. Yeah, that one's not too bad. It's not too bad. What else?
I don't know. You want to pull it up?
Yeah.
I don't even have it
Let's
up.
pull up the track listing here.
So this is everybody's homework for this week. You need to listen to Summer in Paradise.
Everybody give Summer in Paradise a listen.
Yeah, because when Greg and I come back and we talk about it, we want to rate the songs. We want to give it an honest listen. That's what we try to do with all their albums, even this one. So we need you all to do that too. Pull it up and give it a shot, and then we can have an honest.
Oh, Island Fever, dude! Island Fever's
a good. Have fun in the summertime surfing. Summer of Love, Island Fever, Still Surfing. By the way, these are all Mike Love, Tony Melcher songs, like Kokomo kind of. So Slow Summer Dancing is Bruce Johnston. Strange Things Happen's a pretty decent song. That's good Al vocal.
Dude, Terry Melcher, great songwriter, man.
Remember Walking in the Sand. That's a remake. La Haina Aloha. That's
great
Love
tune.
and Melcher.
Yep.
Under the Boardwalk, Summer in Paradise, Love and Melcher, and then Forever. So I don't know. It doesn't seem that offensive to me. I don't know, but
no,
some people just say there's no Brian, so no Brian, no album,
I thought,
but
wait, is Summer of Love? It's a love thing.
Yeah, that's
okay.
it,
Okay, I thought that was something else.
No, that's
okay. So maybe that's super offensive, but other than that, but I think if I talked to Mike, like if we were to sit down and have a beer, I'd be like, hey man, if you could take Summer of Love back right now, would you? And he'd probably be like, yeah.
Or he would just say it was just a goofy song, who cares?
That's true. The Beach Boys have plenty of those.
Does everything have to be, Surf's Up and God Only Knows?
No, but it should not be Summer of Love. Can we agree about that? Like there is a medium, there's a middle ground somewhere there.
Summer of Love reminds me of the I know of offense to the Beach Boys, but like the creepy Uncle Beach Boys, like they kind of had that rep. They were on Full House, but then everybody's like, well, they're old and they have the girls in bikinis in their videos and stuff, and it was creepy. That's
pretty bad.
That era reminds me of that. You know what I mean? But
when the sun beats down, burns the tar off of the roof. I don't think I've actually listened to their version of Under the Boardwalk.
Oh, Carl sings in the middle of it. He goes Under the Boardwalk.
Who sings the main?
Mike does.
Oh.
They change it up a little bit.
The boardwalk.
They go, boardwalk, gonna take my baby to the boardwalk at the beginning. You gotta listen to it, yeah.
Oh, boardwalk.
Yeah, that's it.
That's right.
Gonna take that baby to the
boardwalk.
I only know that one because on that 93 concert, that's really awesome, where they play, it's like from the box set, so they play a lot of deep stuff. They play that one on there, and Carl sounds cool, but
yeah.
Anyway.
Yikes.
Mike Kowalski drumming on there too. So.
Heck yeah. Mike, we love you. Mike Kowalski. What a cool dude, man. He was a lot of fun to have on the show too.
Yeah.
He was awesome.
It's been a good night. This was awesome.
So next week, everybody, make sure you give a listen to Summer in Paradise. Get ready. Yes. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna everybody bring your Hawaiian shirts. Matt and I are gonna find Hawaiian shirts. What else should we wear? Sunglasses, probably. We have to wear our classic Mike Love Beach Boy hats.
Yep.
Matt, can we get you to wear the one-piece bathing suit? What would we have to do? Like if we raised a certain amount of money for charity, would you do that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, if we could raise $1,000 for charity, would you wear a one-piece bathing suit next week?
Like a Pam Anderson one, you mean? Is that what you're talking about? No, I'm never doing that. Come on. I can't take that back.
Yeah, but they're only going to see you from here up.
That's a negative. I don't even think I have one of those Mike Love hats. I think you have them all too, by the way. So,
dude, okay. Is there a number? What about if we raised $5,000 for charity?
What? No.
You wouldn't?
No, nobody would want to do that. They might pay that much money to not see me do that, but we could do it that way. Guys, I'm going to do it unless you pay that much money. How about that? How about we do it that way?
I guess I don't understand. If you can only see from here up, what's the problem? Because it's just like a tank top.
I would have to be sitting in it. That's weird during the show. I couldn't handle that. I
just be like constantly adjusting yourself.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, we are children. Actually, I'm a child, and I'm sorry. Anyway, we got to get out of here.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, fun times with y'all. Make sure join us next week. We got some fun shows coming up. Next week,
we really do.
Talking Summer in Paradise.
We have a lot of exciting news. I can't give it away yet, but
we got.
Let's put it this way: our season's going to end with a bang.
Yeah, for sure. And tomorrow night, I'm going to be at the Beach Boys concert. I'll try and live stream some of it. I'll try and take pictures. And so if you want to hang out tomorrow night, I'm going to try and I'll try and Facebook Beach Boy talk it at the show. Maybe hang out with some of our folks. If you're going to be in Cleveland, we're going to be at Shooters at 5:30. We're going to meet for some drinks and hang out. We're going to have a little mini Beach Boy Cleveland convention. We'll see how many people come up. It's probably going to be like 4 people, but
you guys have fun. I'm jealous.
It's going to be a banger.
But I might be with you to see Al a little bit next month. So.
Yeah, the plan is we're going to go see Al too. So we're going to try and catch the shows. But we love you all very much. God bless you. Have a great night.
Thank you all for joining.
We will see y'all next week. Beach Boys, woo! We're talking Beach Boys, Beach Boys. We're talking Beach Boys, Beach Boys. We're talking Beach Boys, Beach Boys. Woo! We're talking Beach Boys, Beach Boys. 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 We're talking Beach Boys, Beach Boys.